Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football Tips. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture Football, joined by Andrew Pollard from WhatCulture Football to give you all the advice you need ahead of Game Week 2 on Fantasy Football. Before we get into it though, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Football on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily football podcasts when you're out and about. As I said, they're joined by Andrew Pollard. And Andrew, how was Game Week 1 for you on Fantasy Football?
Well, I'm already looking at that wild card. It's kind of gleaming at me saying, come on, click me, you know you want to. Yeah, it was, I'm glad that we don't take this too seriously, even though I kind of do, but when I'm not doing well, no, I'm not bothered about fantasy football. Yeah, I had a dreadful opening weekend. My hot tip last weekend was go with Eddie Nketiah, who came on in the 88th minute for Arsenal. My opening weekend, so I only had 10 players that actually played, which is always great. Aubameyang as my captain obviously did well for me. Connor Cody at the back got me 8 points from Wolves, and other than that, there was nothing at all, mate. It was horrendous. Saka didn't play. He would have been my 11th player. Rodrigo got I think 1 point, maybe. No, he got a booking, so yeah, he got 1 point. The only slight kind of silver lining I've got is I flitted between Harry Kane and Aubameyang as captain, and I was going with Harry Kane. And the Saturday morning of the first game, I changed it back to Aubameyang. And praise the Lord I did that, because otherwise it would have been really embarrassing because Harry Kane got a whopping 2 points. How about you, Mr. Wilbourn? I believe you fared a little bit better.
So how many points did you get in total?
Undisclosed. No. I got a 33, which is, this is where maybe when it comes to the tips, block out what I'm saying and listen more to Wilbourn on this.
No, don't. It's just everyone gets lucky. I got very, very lucky first week. 72 points, courtesy mainly of Aubameyang's captain, just as you and many, many other people did. Mo Salah scoring a whopping 20 points. Jamie Vardy, 13 points. And a very late signing of James Justin, because I was scrabbling around for defenders and not sure who to pick. I nearly threw my phone against the wall when literally the first game rolled around and a mate of mine went, see, Mitrovic isn't starting. I was like, God damn it. But salvaged it. James Rodriguez, my sort of wild card pick, didn't score that many 3 points, but by all accounts had a great game against Spurs, and hopefully as we head into Game Week 2, we'll do more stuff. I should give a massive shout out, by the way, to Goodwin versus everybody. James Goodwin, I do believe. Is that right?
I did have it in front of me. I know it's Goodwin versus everybody.
Jack Goodwin. I do apologise, Jack.
101
Goodwin,
points, was it?
Is the manager of Goodwin versus everybody, who is top of the WhatCulture Fans League. You can still join. Still time to catch up. Maybe not Jack, because he's got a whopping 101 points. Captain Salah was a very, very good weekend. Patrick Bamford sitting on the bench and 7 points as well. 101 points though to Jack Goodwin, top of the WhatCulture Fans League, which you can still join. As I said, there should be a link to the code that you'll need in the comments section, not in the comment section, in the video description below. But we head into Game Week 2. It's all to play for. And Andrew, I suppose the interesting thing here is, of course, the return of Manchester United and Manchester City and Burnley, I suppose.
Yes, I know. This is the redemption week, Wilbourn. This is it. This is where it's all going to get good again. It is. It's hard to look at these fixtures and not look at those two big Manchester clubs. As somebody, I already have Raheem Sterling sat on my bench. I brought him in straight away, so he's ready to come in, which is, I'm looking forward to that, because he's an upgrade on what played last week. Well, or who didn't play, with my 10 men that played. God damn it. But yeah, there's just so many options for those Manchester clubs who to look at. You've got Raheem Sterling, you've got Kevin De Bruyne, you've got Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford as a midfielder, Anthony Martial as a striker. There's a lot going forward with both of those teams. Bernardo Silva, I think, is an absolute bargain at $7.5 million, but he is doubtful for the weekend, so maybe stay away from him for this week. I feel like I'm doing a weather forecast there. Bernardo Silva sweeping in from the right. It's that kind of risk and reward with these teams where there's a lot of players that could score a lot of points, but they're going to cost you a lot of money. Sterling and De Bruyne, both $11.5 million, which is premium players, but they're the sort of players they're going to deliver. I'd say 3 games out of 4 they're going to get some points, which is I have Sterling. I may try and concoct a clever scheme to try and bring in De Bruyne, but Bruno Fernandes, pivotal.
This is the thing. I had it all figured out. I thought, right, we'll have some sort of wild, as I sort of correctly predicted, Leeds versus Liverpool game. And then I put Mo Salah in. I thought, you know what, we'll have Mo Salah. He'll score a decent, 5 to 10 points or whatever. Maybe he'll get a goal or an assist or whatever. Then I'll take him out, bring Bruno Fernandes in. I'd go for more Man United players over Man City players, despite the fact we're obviously tipping Man City for the title, because the next couple of games for Man City, potential banana skins, definitely. Wolverhampton Wanderers and Leicester City to come for them in their first 2 games, whereas Man United slightly easier, home to Crystal Palace and then away to Brighton and Hove Albion next weekend. I don't know what to do now. I look at that side and go, can you justify taking out Mo Salah, who scored 20 points and is going to his old stomping ground of Chelsea this weekend? But then again, Bruno Fernandes against Crystal Palace, who, yes, won, but it's still Crystal Palace and Man United at home. I have no idea what to do.
Oh, well, with Bruno Fernandes, he played, I think it's 14 Premier League games for Manchester United last season, from midfield, getting 8 goals, 7 assists, involved in anything positive they do, always likely for a bonus point. Is kind of on penalties, because United have that weird thing of it tends to be Martial, Rashford and Fernandes rotating between penalty takers. So he may take a penalty if they get one. And United, they do get their fair share of penalties. So, to me, Bruno Fernandes jumps out as he has to be in your team this week. 10.5 million. But then there is the other part of it where Marcus Rashford's £1 million cheaper. He's 9.5 million and is classed as a midfielder. It's that kind of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang thing of like, why is he a midfielder? I get that they're wide forwards, but to me, they're still part of the forward line. That Manchester United forward line that outscored Liverpool, the 3 forwards of Mason Greenwood, Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford last season. So you'd fancy them against Palace at home, but then Palace, a lot of people fancy Southampton to beat Palace last weekend, and Palace played really well, but Manchester United at Old Trafford, an empty Old Trafford, of course. I think to me, Bruno Fernandes is the one that really jumps out. But if you've got the money, because again, like I said, they're premium signings, these players, that they're going to cost you a whack. And would you take out Mo Salah for that? Me, yes, because I have this weird rule where I don't have any Liverpool players in my squad. So I know, which in the last 2 years has really come back to bite me in the arse massively. But you look at it, and Mo Salah, you always fancy that. When you look at that, Chelsea and Liverpool, we'll get to the juicy games coming up, but I think there's going to be goals in that. So Salah's always, whoever Liverpool are playing, you always fancy Mo Salah or Sadio Mane to score. So it's very much, I think, down to personal preference on that one. Just trying to look at it objectively, I'd say Fernandes has more of a chance of more points. But who knows? Because Mo Salah could go and rattle another hat trick, and it's great. It's fancy football. I love it.
I really kicking myself. I was torn between Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk, and I thought, Leeds might nick a goal, and chances are, bonus points wise, it's going to be Alexander-Arnold who gets it over Virgil van Dijk. Well, how wrong I was. Alexander-Arnold only scoring 1 point. The other defender I had alongside him, James Justin, Walker-Peters. God, I can't tell you the relief I had when my mate's text came through revealing that Walker-Peters' red card had been rescinded in that game. But
so hold on, so you could have had Walker-Peters who could have been sent off, and you could have had a Trent Alexander-Arnold who had an own goal ruled out. Brilliant.
That could have been. Oh, forgot about that. Yeah, mad game. Obviously, that Leeds Liverpool game. So how do you feel about Liverpool and Chelsea players going into that game? Because it's going to be a fascinating game. I got Timo Werner up front, who didn't really quite give me the returns I was expecting in the first week, and he's got a little yellow marker on him, potential dead leg. Is that concerning for you?
As he's not in my team, not in the slightest. but no, I think with Chelsea and Liverpool, you'd like to think it's going to be a high-scoring game. because what we've seemed to have learned since the restart towards the end of last season is that a lot of these games tend to have goals in. There's very few games that are 0-0, and a lot of the more technically sound players seem to shine through. I don't know if that's to do with the lack of crowds behind players or heckling players or cheering players on, but it's more about the technical players, and a lot of those more technical players are the more advanced players. And so I'd fancy, if I was picking a team, I think I'd be very comfortable having Chelsea and Liverpool midfielders and attackers in my side, but not necessarily at the back, particularly Chelsea. I think if I've got Chelsea defenders, I'm probably pulling them out. I mean, Reece James, I thought his second half, the first weekend, the first Monday night game, I thought he was great. Got a screamer of a goal and got an assist because he's on corners at the moment. So Reece James maybe keep in, but the rest of the Chelsea defenders or Kepa, if anyone has him, I'd be getting rid of all of those. Like I said, apart from Reece James. For Liverpool, it's I don't know. I think to me, I fancy Chelsea to score past Liverpool, but you always fancy the Liverpool fullbacks to get some points. Just the way they play in terms of attacking and bombing on, and also the fact that Trent takes free kicks and corners. So maybe keep your Liverpool fullbacks. Maybe get rid of Joe Gomez if you got him. But Virgil van Dijk, it's a tricky one because he's such a threat all the time on set pieces. So, yeah, I think my advice with that game is if you've got Chelsea defenders that aren't Reece James, yank him out.
Who else are you already regretting bringing in and potentially immediately taking out of your side?
Oh, God. As somebody who only had 10 players in the starting week, I'm regretting bringing in Saka at Arsenal. I'm regretting bringing in Eddie Nketiah, which was my big tip last weekend. But I think those players will come good, and I think they will get game time, and they're very cheap, so I'll happily keep them now as options on the bench. I don't know, really. I think that's the weird thing. I'm happy with my team, but I'm really disappointed at the same time. Like, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. We've all been there. We've all disappointed people, and it's the worst thing in the world. I think the big disappointment for me from last weekend was Harry Kane, just because that was my one striker that I had money on or money in. He sounds like a racehorse. Like I've developed him, but I had Rodrigo from Leeds and Eddie Nketiah as my cheap striker options, and Harry Kane was the one I kind of went all out as my kind of focal point up front. And it wasn't so much he didn't score against Everton, just he looked awful. He looked really tired. He wasn't on it. He wasn't sharp. His movement wasn't there. Jose talked after the game about how his attacking lineup looked lazy. And I mean, if Jose Mourinho's saying that, I can get away with saying it myself. And so, yeah, I'm regretting spending so much money on Harry Kane. So I think it's 12 million possibly that is involved in him. I'm just trying to look here, but yeah, that was my kind of big regret there, that I went, 10.5 million, which is still a lot of money. And you think if Spurs have got Southampton away, and to me, I'm thinking, if I'm going to make one change this week, I think Harry Kane might have to go. But I don't know, because it's Spurs, it's Jose, it's Harry Kane. There's so many variables about Harry Kane. Yeah, it's not August, but he doesn't start seasons well. That Spurs side is so hit and miss. When they click, you could easily imagine them going to Southampton and getting turned over 2-0, or you could imagine them going there and winning 5-0. And I don't want to kind of pull the plug so early on and going, right, Harry, you're out the team, you're done. But I don't know. I'm looking at it and thinking, maybe I take him out there, because it's a lot of money to invest in a striker, and because I think there's a really good, one of my tips of the week, there's a really good cheaper striker who I feel will get some goals this weekend.
Before we get to that, I have to say I'm umming and ahhing about Timo Werner. I sense that if you've got him in your side, probably keep him, because I'll probably take him out, and that means he's definitely going to score on Sunday. A lot of people jumping to get Jeff Hendrick in their side, of course, after his performance over the weekend for Newcastle. Mitrovic is such a difficult one for me, because he was a good, cheap player who has got a bit of pedigree in the Premier League and can score some points. And they're playing Leeds, and that game just fascinates me this weekend.
See, I've kind of gone the other way, where this is where I'm really going to keep Rodrigo for Leeds, because they're playing Fulham this weekend. So that was my looking at it, thinking I fancy Leeds to beat Fulham. And Patrick Bamford, he got his opening weekend goal against Liverpool, robbing Virgil van Dijk of the ball. Well, not robbing him, but reading Virgil van Dijk's back pass, and really smart goal there. But I think for me, Rodrigo in that game, he looked okay in his first match, but it was against Liverpool, the reigning champions, and he did give away a penalty, which is never great when you're a striker. But yeah, to me, I really fancy Rodrigo in this game, and even that, I think looking at the back, I know I recommended him last time out, but I'm just saying this because he's still on my side. But Alioski, who is playing at left back for Leeds, but is a very attacking left back, was originally playing as a left winger for them up until last season, and he's only 4.5 million. So I just think if you're looking for somebody cheap to flesh out your squad this weekend, if you're making those sort of transfers where you need to, if you're making a double transfer where you need to free up some money to bring in a bigger name in midfield or up front, then and take something out of your defence, then Alioski at 4.5 million could represent good money, because to me, I fancy Leeds to get a clean sheet in this, and he's always good to be involved in some attacking play as well.
I think if you haven't got Arsenal players in your side, get them in for Saturday night, even when they face West Ham United. And I'm going to reiterate my wildcard pick, James Rodriguez. I think he's going to have a field day on Saturday lunchtime against West Bromwich Albion, if I'm perfectly honest. Really, really exciting to see what happens in that game. And like I said, with the Man City one, it's a kind of toss-up. Like, it's Man City still, but they're away at Wolves, and we all know what Wolves did to them last weekend. Anyone else that you think people should be considering for this game week?
Yes, there is. I talked about maybe a cheaper option than Harry Kane, and I fancy Callum Wilson for Newcastle. Harry Kane 10.5 million, Callum Wilson 6.5 million, and they're playing Brighton at home. And I mean, it's home and away doesn't really mean that much right now, to be honest. No. But I just think Callum Wilson, the fact that he started with a goal in his debut, you always fancy him to get a goal. Even last season when Bournemouth weren't playing well and obviously ultimately got relegated, when he was fit, you'd fancy him to get a goal. And I really enjoyed watching Newcastle play last week. And I think that, I mean, as a neutral, that seems like it's been a while since I could say that. I'm thinking going back to Yohan Cabaye days. What a player he was for him. But I think... Yeah, it was fun to watch Newcastle, especially just because of the attacking force of Andy Carroll, Callum Wilson looked great together. Alan Saint-Maximin, which is another person I think, if you're looking for cheap midfield options, Alan Saint-Maximin at 5.5 million, you'd fancy him to do something against Brighton. Whether it's always that thing with him. Is he going to get a goal? Is he going to get an assist? Or is he going to be that player that goes past three players, passes it to somebody, and then the other person. The assist to the assist, but he's been the key part of it. But I think those two grab my eye for Newcastle. I think, me personally, I'm going to be bringing in Callum Wilson. I just think 6.5 million. Let's see how they're going. They've got Brighton at home. And Emi Martinez, now he's moved to Villa, and he's officially available to sign up there as a Villa player for 4.5 million. I think whether it's as a stop, because I like to have two goalkeepers that play and then rotate them as and when the fixtures dictate it. And I think for him to now go to Villa to only be 4.5 million, you know he's going to be starting games. Tom Heaton's still injured. They got Sheffield United this weekend, which I'd favour Sheffield United in that, but Villa could get something out of it. I just think as something to have in your squad, he's a great guy. And I think a player you mentioned before, which I didn't realise he was only 4.5 million, but James Justin at Leicester. Obviously, he got a clean sheet and an assist last weekend against West Brom, which was 14 points, maybe, I think that clocked up at. And he's only 4.5 million. Leicester have got Burnley this weekend. And you're thinking, I don't know, depending on how the game goes, either way, I don't really see Burnley scoring a lot in this. No. And it's a case of you'd fancy either a Leicester win or a Leicester draw, and you probably fancy Leicester to get a clean sheet. So I think at 4.5 million, now that we've seen James Justin is going to play, that could be a really good shout. And also maybe Rob Holding, Arsenal against West Ham. Because Arsenal have got no centre-halves, really. They've got Socrates, David Luiz, Shkodran Mustafi, and Pablo Mari, all unavailable at the moment. So you think there was talk of Rob Holding moving maybe to Newcastle before the season kicked off. He may still leave, but at the moment, he's one of only two fit centre-halves they've got. They're playing West Ham. He's only 4.5 million. You'd really fancy an Arsenal clean sheet here. And so if you're looking for cheap defenders, again, I think Rob Holding could be something worth throwing in for now.
Yeah, I might replace Werner with Martial. I'm just thinking whilst you were talking there. James Justin, a big pick. And I have to say, get Vardy in your side now. Obviously scored big points last weekend. I reckon he's going to do well this weekend. Game week 3, yes, they're playing Manchester City. But then after that, they got some decent fixtures. Or certainly, what are they playing game week 4? Let me double check. Game week 4. Game week 5, Leicester have got Villa. Game week 4, they've got West Ham. So yeah, get Jamie Vardy in your side.
That could be a shout, Wilbourn, yeah.
As we wrap things up here, who gets the captain's armband for you this weekend?
See, I wrote 3 names down here. One, Callum Wilson, Newcastle playing Brighton, 6.5 million. And I fancy Newcastle. It's a Newcastle side where I feel like they're going to get goals. They might concede a few, but I feel like they're going to get goals. Also, Bruno Fernandes, they're playing Crystal Palace. You fancy, like I said, his stats, I think it was 8 goals and 7 assists in his 14 games to date in the league for United. So he's always going to be involved in whatever they do well. And the other one is an obvious one. And to me, I kind of overlooked it almost because he's already on my side, like a lot of players, like a lot of fantasy players. But Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, West Ham, it's... What if I didn't have Aubameyang, would I be going out and messing my team around to try and afford him? Probably not. But if he's in your side, I would. Yeah, I think he's probably the more like no-brainer captain. They're playing West Ham. It's a poor West Ham side. There is quality in that West Ham team, but it's a West Ham side that you kind of feel are in turmoil. Oh, it's a West Ham club that you feel are in turmoil right now, and you could see them going on a really rough run. Yeah. They looked awful against Newcastle, and you're thinking, Aubameyang could have a field day. So, yeah, I'd probably go with him again.
I'm going to fight the urge to put the armband on a United player and just to keep things settled in my dressing room. I'm going to keep it on Aubameyang. He didn't quite score the points I was hoping for last weekend, but I reckon got a real shot against West Ham. One final thing I want to ask you about, of course, the ongoing discussions about Gareth Bale, depending on when this video goes out or podcast comes out. He may already be a Spurs player. How soon do you transfer him in?
Ooh.
Do you want to get there before everyone piles in and his price shoots up, presumably, but also Wales golf and then, Premier League football?
Yeah, I think if and when this deal happens, which by all accounts, every reliable source on the planet is saying, look, it's basically done. It's just a case of doing the paperwork. So it looks like 95% chance that Gareth Bale is once again going to be a Spurs player. To me, I think he will thrive at Tottenham again. I think we talked about it in the week earlier in the news and in other videos we've done, where to me, I think that he's that player where right now he just, if you show him the love and the respect that he deserves, the trophies he's won, the performances he's put in, if you show him that love and respect, he will perform, as shown by his performances for Wales still, while he's sat in his arse at Real Madrid making goggles out of programs or newspapers, whatever it was. I think to me, he's, as soon as he's available, he's going in my squad. Maybe it is a tricky one because you might want to give it a week or two because he's probably not going to come in and play straight away. It's going to maybe be a week or two to get some fitness. And also, it's going to be the price. That's what I'm intrigued to see because we're looking at, you've got premium midfielders like Aubameyang at 12 million, De Bruyne, Sterling 11.5 million apiece, Bruno Fernandes 10.5. What represents value for Gareth Bale? So if he's 10 million, I think I'm maybe breaking the bank to put him in. I think because I do have him in my side, if I can even find it here. But yeah, I've got Son, who's 9 million. And if he's that price, if he's 9 million, I'm putting Gareth Bale in because whether it might not be in the short term, he might not get those points that you're hoping for because it's going to take a week or two, like I said, maybe a month for him to get fully into the starting lineup. I think there at Spurs to get up to speed. But I think long term, I think he guarantees points, he guarantees performances, he guarantees goals, he guarantees assists, he guarantees bonus points. If this Gareth Bale transfer gets done, I bring him in straight away. But be prepared maybe to have him on your bench for a few weeks.
And the good news is, whatever you pay for him in fantasy football, money-wise, Real Madrid will pay half. So it's all good. Yes. Decide for Sunday afternoon. Who knows? But let us know your thoughts on fantasy football game week 2, your tips and your hits and misses for the first game week in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Football on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from for daily football podcasts when you're out and about. Continue the conversation on Twitter at WhatCulture FC, where you can also follow both of us. Andrew, where can people get you?
Yeah, you can get me at Culture Left Peg.
And you can find me at Adam Wilbourn. Follow us all at WhatCulture FC. And as I said, make sure if you haven't done so already to join the WhatCulture Fans League. The link to it should be somewhere in the description to this video, or you can find it on our previous fantasy football video from last week. But for now, this has been Fantasy Football Tips for Game Week 2. My thanks to Andrew Pollard. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.